Hi, I'm Lena. Today, I want to share my story. A story about family, power, and finding my voice. A woman's place is not in business meetings, my father-in-law, Frank, declared at yet another tense family dinner. Ben needs a wife who focuses on family, not spreadsheets. I felt my husband tense beside me but say nothing. 6 months into our marriage and I was already learning that Frank's word was law in this family. Actually, I said with a polite smile, the project I'm managing just landed $1 million client. Frank's face hardened. Numbers are a man's domain, right, Ben? Ben stared at his plate, avoiding my eyes. Dad has years of experience, Lena. I met Ben at a finance conference 2 years ago. He had been so different then, confident, full of ideas. But that was before Frank began inserting himself into every aspect of our lives. My best friend Amy warned me about this. I thought bitterly. His father runs that family like a dictatorship, she'd said. And she was right. Every Sunday dinner felt like a trial, with Frank presiding as judge and jury. Even at our housewarming, Frank had something to criticize. The house you bought is too small, he declared. No room for grandchildren. We're focusing on our careers first, I replied. Frank slammed his hand on the table. Family comes first. Always. Ben knows this, don't you, son? Yes, Dad, Ben mumbled. Frank even dismissed Ben's career. Banking isn't real business, he'd say. Real men build things like my construction company. When are you joining the family business, son? Ben's mother, Susan, stayed silent, refilling wine glasses with trembling hands. His sister, Jenny, only spoke when Frank addressed her directly. They're all scared of him, Emmy observed after meeting them. Have you noticed how they freeze when he raises his voice? Lately, Frank's suggestions had turned into something darker. A tight grip on my shoulder if I disagreed with him. Standing too close, towering over me when making his points. Intimidation cloaked as conversation. Just smile and nod, Susan whispered during dish duty one evening. It's easier that way. But I wasn't raised to smile and nod. The problem was, every time I stood my ground, Frank's eyes would narrow, and his presence became more menacing. Last week, I made the mistake of mentioning my plans to expand my department at work. Frank grabbed my wrists, pretending to admire my watch. Such expensive taste, he sneered. Ben's salary not good enough for you. Let go, I said firmly. His grip tightened. Disrespectful. This generation of women thinks they know better than their elders. Ben saw it all, and, as always, said nothing. Sunday dinners became weekly nightmares. Frank's grip over the family tightened as he sensed my resistance. One morning, I found Ben in our home office, shredding a letter, a promotion offer, one that would have required us to move. Why? I demanded. I don't care, he said flatly. It would mean moving branches, and Dad says I need to stay close to home. A better position, a higher salary, all gone because Frank said no. That evening at dinner, the promotion news slipped out anyway. Frank's fork clattered against his plate. Abandoning family for money? He snapped. First Lena poisons you with her career ambitions, and now this. It's just an offer, Dad, Ben murmured, his voice shaking. I haven't decided, Frank declared, standing abruptly. Susan flinched at his movement. When I started this family business, my father told me. Maybe Ben wants his own path, I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. The room fell silent. Jenny froze mid-breath, her fork hovering. Susan gripped her napkin tightly. Frank stepped behind my chair, his hands heavy on my shoulders. You've forgotten your place again, he hissed. My place is supporting my husband's dreams, I said, refusing to waver. His fingers dug into my shoulders painfully. Your place is wherever I say it is. I built this family. I decide what's best. Dad. Ben's voice was hesitant, barely audible. Maybe ease up a bit. Frank shoved my chair forward. She's made you weak. All her independent woman nonsense. That night, Ben slept in the guest room. Just give him time to calm down, I told myself. But Frank wasn't calming down. Every week brought new tests of control. He accidentally spilled coffee on my laptop before a client meeting. He showed up unannounced at my office, claiming to check on Ben's wife. He started suggesting, in veiled tones at dinner, that I might be cheating because of my late nights. No smoke without fire, he'd say, looking straight at Ben. I watched my husband shrink smaller each week, retreating into his father's shadow. Then one day, I found construction documents in our mailbox. Plans for a nursery Frank had drafted without asking us. I already paid the crew, Frank announced smugly at Sunday dinner. They start Monday. No, I said, my voice steady. We're not ready for children. His face twisted into something ugly. You don't get a vote. This is family business. I was done being quiet. Everyone, I have an announcement, Frank began at the next Sunday dinner, puffing his chest with pride. The family business just landed the new mall contract. The usual chorus of praise began. Susan clapped softly, Jenny nodded eagerly, and Ben beamed at his father. But something felt off. Wasn't that project awarded to Mitchell Construction? I asked, my voice cutting through the room. The temperature seemed to drop 20 degrees. What did you say? Frank's voice was deadly quiet. I saw the paperwork last week. Mitchell Construction won the bid. Are you calling me a liar? He stepped toward me, his face darkening. I'm saying you're wrong. I replied evenly. The mall project went to Mitchell. Your bid was rejected. How dare you? Frank slammed both hands on the table, making the plates rattle. Some paper-pushing woman thinks she knows more than me. The numbers don't lie, Frank. Your bid was too high. Your company's financials weren't strong enough. Shut your mouth, he roared. His face turned purple with rage. Maybe if you spent less time controlling everyone and more time managing your business properly. The slap echoed through the dining room. My cheek burned. Susan gasped. Jenny began to cry. Lena, Ben finally spoke, his voice trembling. Apologize to Dad. Right now. I touched my stinging face, staring at him in disbelief. Apologize? You disrespected him in his own house. Frank smirked, victorious. Listen to my son. Know your place. That was the moment everything became crystal clear. This wasn't about business or family, it was about power. I stood slowly, my chair scraping back against the floor. Your son. You and your puppet. Get out of my house, Frank roared. Gladly. I turned to Ben. Are you coming? He looked between us, lost and trapped. Dad's right, he whispered. You went too far. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I did. I went too far thinking you'd ever be strong enough to stand up to him. As I walked out, I heard Frank's triumphant laugh. Women these days think they know everything. But he had made one crucial mistake. He thought this was over. It wasn't, not even close. Monday morning, I walked into my office with purpose. As head of construction financing, I had access to every major project bid in the area, including Frank's. A pattern quickly emerged: inflated bids, poor financial planning, a business running on reputation rather than results. 3 failed projects in 6 months, complaints about missed deadlines, workers quitting over Frank's temper. The rejection of the mall contract had hit him hard. A colleague mentioned his company was counting on it, using it as collateral for other loans. Everything clicked. Frank wasn't just a bully, he was a desperate one. The annual industry dinner couldn't have come at a better time. Everyone who mattered would be there. Contractors, developers, bankers. I made sure to sit with Mitchell Construction's CEO. Frank's quite traditional in his business approach, I said loudly enough to carry. Some might say, outdated. Right on cue, Frank appeared at our table, his face already red. Lena, he thundered. What are you doing discussing business? Frank sneered as he approached the table. I smiled sweetly. Oh, just talking about those numbers you think women can't possibly understand. You have no right. Like you had no right to lie about winning the mall contract. My voice carried across the room. Conversations halted and heads turned. Frank's face darkened. I built this industry, he thundered, his voice rising. Before your generation came in with your fancy degrees and progressive ideas. Is that why you lost the mall contract? I asked, tilting my head. Too many fancy degrees involved, or was it the financial irregularities in your bid? Frank's composure cracked. You little. He stepped toward me, hand raised, just like he had at dinner. I didn't flinch. Going to slap me here too? I asked, my voice loud and steady. In front of all your business associates, just like you did at Sunday dinner. He froze. The room was silent, the weight of my words hanging in the air. Mitchell Construction's CEO stood, his expression sharp. What's that about slapping? Frank's mask slipped completely. She's lying. Women always lie. Just like when they said my bid numbers didn't add up. The room stirred. More people stood, more questions followed. Each answer made Frank angrier. his true nature unraveling for all to see. "This is family business," he roared, desperate to regain control. "Family?" I repeated calmly. "Like how you control Ben's career, or how Susan's too afraid to speak, or how you forced Jenny to quit college." Frank sputtered, but it was too late. His own words had condemned him. Every misogynistic rant, every threat, every failed project spilled out in front of the entire industry. By the end of the week, 3 developers canceled contracts with Frank's company. 4 more followed shortly after. No one wanted to work with a man who couldn't control his temper or his business. 3 weeks later, Ben called. His voice was heavy with regret. "Dad's drinking. Mom moved in with her sister. The business is failing." "And us?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. There was silence on the line. "Then, I'm sorry. I should have protected you that night, but I didn't. I chose him, like I always did. Some choices you can't take back, Ben." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I've started therapy. Turns out a lot of us needed help dealing with Dad. But I understand if it's too late for us." It was. I had already contacted a divorce lawyer. The papers arrived a week later. Frank made one last attempt at control, storming into my office unannounced. "Fix this," he demanded. "Fix what?" I asked calmly. "Your reputation, your business, your broken family." I leaned back in my chair. "No, Frank, you destroy everything." His face twisted with anger. "You." "No, Frank, you did that yourself, one slap at a time." The fallout was inevitable. Frank's company went under within months. He lives alone now, in a small apartment, still ranting about how women ruined the business world. Susan filed for divorce. Jenny went back to college, finally chasing her dreams. Ben moved across the country, determined to start fresh, far from his father's shadow. The divorce was finalized quietly. Ben sent one last email. "You were right all along. I was never strong enough to stand up to him. I hope someday I can be as brave as you. As for me, I just got promoted to senior executive. My new office overlooks the mall project, the one that started it all. Mitchell Construction is doing a fantastic job with it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about standing back and letting them destroy themselves." Frank did that perfectly. All I had to do was ensure everyone was watching when he did. My place was exactly where I belonged all along, standing up for myself, even if it meant standing alone.